Kenya and Somalia join the AES movement, dealing a blow to Western powers. Traoré reacts to Trump's plan to repatriate Africans by calling for the return of their gold. In a groundbreaking move that is shaking the geopolitical landscape, Kenya and Somalia have officially joined the AES Alliance for Economic Sovereignty movement, a bold initiative that seeks to unify Africa under a single economic and political framework. This move, championed by Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré, has been met with strong opposition from Western powers, who fear it may weaken their influence on the continent. President Traoré has been vocal about his vision to replace the African Union with a new organization called the Afro-Union, aimed at fostering true African unity. His plan includes the creation of a single African currency, Afro-money, and the establishment of a centralized banking system split between Kenya and Somalia. Furthermore, the Afro-Union would allow Africans to travel visa-free across all member states, a move set to revolutionize intra-African movement and trade. Already, a prototype of the new African passport has been leaked, displaying a unified design that represents each African nation. In a historic decision, Nigeria and Ghana have been chosen as the headquarters for the Afro-Union, while South Africa will host the African Supreme Court. President Traoré himself is expected to take the role of chairman, solidifying his leadership in this movement. Despite the excitement surrounding this initiative, not everyone is pleased. Reports indicate that the European Union has been covertly opposing the plan, fearing that it could strengthen Russia's influence in Africa. There have even been murmurs of economic sanctions as a deterrent to African nations considering joining the movement. However, Traoré and his allies remain undeterred, emphasizing that Africa possesses the resources necessary to sustain itself independently of the U.S. and EU. One of the most ambitious projects under this initiative is the launch of Afro Airlines, a budget-friendly airline designed to enhance connectivity across the continent. The airline aims to make travel more accessible and affordable for Africans, breaking down colonial-era barriers that have long hindered mobility and trade. Additionally, Burkina Faso is spearheading efforts to become a visa-free nation for all Africans, setting a precedent for other countries to follow. While many Africans have hailed this initiative as the dawn of true Pan-Africanism, internal resistance persists. Several African leaders are reluctant to support the Afro-Union, fearing a loss of political control and financial security. Critics argue that Africa's biggest challenge is internal, the reluctance of its own leaders to break free from Western influence. Many believe that the continent's progress has been stifled by leaders prioritizing personal gain over collective prosperity. Kenyan President William Ruto and Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed have joined Traoré in backing the movement, signifying a major geopolitical shift. As Africa stands at this historic crossroads, President Traoré has urged all African nations to join forces, emphasizing that unity is the key to the continent's resurgence. Supporters argue that if African leaders commit to this vision, the continent could emerge as a global economic powerhouse within a decade. However, the road ahead remains uncertain, as opposition from within and outside Africa continues to mount. Despite the challenges, the Afro-Union movement is gaining momentum, inspiring a wave of optimism among Africans who long for a unified and self-reliant continent. As more nations consider joining, the question remains: will Africa finally break free from the shadows of its colonial past and forge a new path toward independence and prosperity? For more updates on this evolving story, stay tuned to Vlog ND. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for the latest news on Africa's transformation. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Should Africa move forward with the Afro-Union, or is the risk too great? Traoré reacts to Trump's plan to repatriate Africans by calling for the return of their gold. It's going on in all Africa. For decades, African nations have entrusted billions of dollars worth of gold to foreign vaults, particularly in the United States, under the belief that their wealth was secure. However, a major shift is now underway as African leaders, alarmed by recent geopolitical and economic developments, demand the return of their gold reserves. The catalyst for this financial standoff was the abrupt aid cuts implemented by U.S. President Donald Trump, which prompted many African nations to rethink their dependency on Western-controlled financial systems. With economic sovereignty at stake, countries such as Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa are now leading the charge to reclaim their gold, asserting that true independence requires direct control over national wealth. While the request to repatriate gold reserves is not unprecedented, history suggests that it may not be an easy task. When Germany sought to retrieve its gold from the United States in 2013, it took 7 years to receive only a portion of it. African leaders are now facing a similar challenge, but this time, they stand united, questioning a financial system that has long left the continent vulnerable. If the U.S. refuses to return the reserves, could this accelerate Africa's pivot toward BRICS nations such as China and Russia? And could this mark the beginning of a financial revolution where African countries break free from Western economic dominance? While it may seem shocking to some, storing gold abroad is a common practice among many nations, including Germany, Italy, and India, which rely on foreign vaults for security and logistical reasons. However, trust in Western financial institutions is fading, especially after the U.S. froze Russia's foreign reserves in 2022 following its invasion of Ukraine. This move sent a stark warning to countries worldwide. Wealth stored abroad is not immune to political maneuvering. Now, African nations are joining the growing trend of gold repatriation. Nigeria, for instance, has taken an even bolder step by banning gold exports altogether, signaling a decisive shift toward economic self-reliance. Other countries, including South Africa, Cameroon, and Egypt, are also making moves to secure their financial futures by keeping their gold within their own borders. The push for gold repatriation aligns with a larger global trend of de-dollarization championed by BRICS nations. China and Russia have been actively promoting alternative financial systems, and reports suggest that BRICS is working toward creating a new currency backed by gold. This development could have profound implications for Africa's financial stability and its relationship with Western economies. But the question remains, will African nations succeed in retrieving their gold? Germany's experience offers a cautionary tale. When German officials requested an inspection of their gold reserves at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, they were reportedly denied access, fueling speculation that the gold was no longer physically present. After formally requesting its return, the U.S. claimed the process would take 7 years, raising further suspicions. If history repeats itself, African nations may face significant resistance from the U.S. and its financial institutions. However, the determination of African leaders suggests they are prepared for the challenge, viewing gold repatriation as a crucial step toward economic independence and long-term stability. In addition to reclaiming their gold, some African nations are taking further steps to redefine their economic futures. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have recently announced plans to exit ECOWAS, a move driven by growing frustration with Western influence over African financial policies. These nations are also working on developing a new currency to replace the CFA franc, which has long been controlled by France. By taking control of their own financial systems, these nations hope to foster regional trade, increase economic self-sufficiency, and break free from colonial-era monetary structures. However, this transition is not without challenges. France, which has historically maintained economic control over its former colonies, may resist these changes through diplomatic and financial pressure. Despite potential obstacles, the momentum toward African economic sovereignty is gaining ground. As more countries take steps to reclaim their gold and establish independent financial policies, the global economic landscape could shift significantly. This movement is about more than just securing physical assets. It is a bold assertion of Africa's right to control its own wealth and destiny. The implications of this shift are vast, and the world is watching closely. Will this mark the beginning of a new era in global finance, where African nations assert greater control over their resources and financial futures? Stay tuned as we continue to monitor this unfolding story. For Vlog ND, I'm Jackie Pierre. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth news and analysis on the world's most pressing issues.